I don't know if you knew, but there's a couple of strikes going on in the world of Hollywood that have shut everything down. The writer's strike, of course, started first. It started over 4 months ago now. And the actors have been on strike. That is starting to stretch. Well, Chris, you would know better than anybody. How long has the actor strike been going on?
We're about 50 some odd days.
So we're closing in on 2
pushing
months.
60.
Yeah.
Which I'll be honest with you, I did not think it would last this long.
Nope.
I even remember I did an editorial video, and I still believe this. I did an editorial video a while ago saying why the actor strike will end before the writer's strike, because, the studios, writers want to go on strike. Okay, we're good for a while. We got tons of scripts. We got tons of things in production. We got a lot of stuff in the can that's ready to go. That's cool. We can have a long writer's strike. But the actors going on strike, I said, that changes things because everything shuts down. No actors. You can't be in production on anything. Because remember, the writer's strike was going on. They were still shooting Deadpool 3 with the writers being on strike. Actors being on strike, no more shooting Deadpool 3. No more shooting anything. And movies that are supposed to be coming out that are already finished are having to get delayed because those stars can't go out and promote those films. And so that I laid all that out. And I tell you, I still think the actors' strike will be resolved first. But it's already gone longer than I thought it would. I got to admit, I can't be the only one. This has gone on longer than we thought. Well, we've done some stories about the price tags. I mean, the actors and writers talk a lot about the financial burdens this is causing for them. We're hearing from other members and even union leaders of other unions. They're talking about how, even though they're not involved in these strikes, it's impacting them. We've heard about how it's impacting surrounding things. Like even, who was it? Was Rob was talking about that he knows an owner of like an eatery down in Hollywood that's near a lot of the production stuff, and they're might go out of business because the people aren't down there working because no production's going on. And of course, we all knew, but we haven't really heard some specific numbers. We knew this was also going to hit the studios where it matters to them the most, their bank accounts. This is coming into us from Deadline. The financial impact of ongoing actors and writer strikes has a number on it now. Or at least, as Warner Brothers Discovery said today, it's looking at a hit. Already, get this number. Wrap your head around this number. Of $300 million to $500 million in adjusted EBITDA, EBITDA, earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization for 2023 due to the work stoppages. In a filing this morning with the Securities Exchange Commission, Warner Brothers Discovery said it is expecting lower adjusted EBITDA for the full year in the range of $10.5 to $11 billion, reflecting the company's assumption that adjusted EBITDA will be negatively impacted by approximately $300 to $500 million, predominantly due to the impact of the strikes. Now, just so you know, that filing with the Security Exchange Commissions also show that their free cash flow has gone up to about $5 billion, but that has a lot to do with the success of Barbie and all that kind of stuff. But as Ray and I were talking about before the show, okay, yeah, their overall cash flow has gone up, but it would have been up by $300 to $500 million more had the strike not been going on. The strikes haven't been happening right now. Now, look, the unions, the trade organizations, the AMPTP, they all knew exactly. They all have accountants. They all knew exactly what's going to happen. They all knew exactly what this was going to cost. Nobody on any level in this is being caught by surprise. But when you start hearing these numbers, the writers, I mean, some of the writers have been talking publicly lately about we're starting to really feel the pinch of this. The studios are really starting to feel the pinch of this. The thing that to me, and I know I've said this a million times, in talking about how rapidly, streaming, we talked a little bit earlier, rapidly streaming is changing and people don't really have a handle yet on how streaming is. I am always flabbergasted and always come down to this. These deals are only for 3 years. So why won't somebody at the studios, or I don't care, anybody involved in this process, I'll just go from the point of view of the studios. Why doesn't somebody from the studios just come forward and say, look, we clearly have some very, very complicated issues here, and we're clearly still pretty far apart on some things. It does sound like there's some things they're getting closer on, which is good. It gave me a false sense of hope at one point, but at least there are some things they're getting closer on, but there's some things that are still really far apart. Why doesn't somebody from the studios just step forward and say, look, how about we, hey, this deal involves us, so we can change the rules. Why don't we together say, let's sign a deal for 1 year. Let's sign a deal for 1 year and come to some kind of an agreement that we can all live with temporarily. And that gives us a full year to reach a better understanding and come to a better agreement. And we can all work while we're doing it. I mean, I don't know. Maybe somebody did come up with that idea. Maybe somebody from SAG came up with that idea and the studios rejected it, or vice versa. I don't know. But this is something that is becoming very expensive for everybody involved. And guys, we want to thank a sponsor of this video, HelloFresh. With HelloFresh, you get farm-fresh, pre-portioned ingredients and seasonal recipes delivered right to your doorstep. Skip trips to the grocery store and count on HelloFresh to make home cooking easy, fun, and affordable. That's why it's America's #1 meal kit. Kickstart a fresh fall routine with HelloFresh. HelloFresh handles all the meal planning and shopping to deliver everything you need to cook up a tasty meal right at home. They do the hard part and you get to take the credit. HelloFresh takes the stress out of mealtime by delivering fresh ingredients and easy recipes right to your door. So this fall, skip that extra trip to the grocery store and have dinner ready in no time with America's #1 meal kit. Like we've mentioned before, Ann and I are both working professionals, and mealtime is sometimes a bit stressful. That's why we absolutely love HelloFresh. It's nutritious, it's delicious, and we actually have a really good time making dinner together. So guys, go to hellofresh.com/50Campea and use the code 50Campea for 50% off plus 15% off the next 2 months. That's hellofresh.com/50Campea and use the code 50Campea. HelloFresh, America's #1 meal kit. You know, Chris, I've had a couple of months. You and I have talked. There have been some developments where you and I have talked and I've gone, man, I'm feeling more hopeful now.
Yep.
Like this happened. And
Feeling
then something
good about
else.
these negotiations.
Oh, they're talking again. Oh, a counteroffer was finally made. Oh, somebody on the union side said this. And I just get this swell of, optimism.
And then it comes crashing down.
Oh my God, it
Just
comes crashing
bitch slap
down.
that optimism right on out.
It's like that pretty girl who starts talking to you and then she mentions her fiance. Like your hopes go up and then comes crashing down. Anyway, how do you think, these numbers that Warner Brothers is revealing right now, how does this affect your overall orbital viewpoint of where are we right now? Does this put more of the gas pedal to it? Does it even slam on the brakes more? We've been hearing some people talking about maybe the AMPTP needs to break up because some of the whispers have been saying, listen, some of the studios feel pretty good about some of the things, not everything, but some of the things that the unions are asking for, but it's 1 or 2 members of the AMPTP that are being
I read an article on Deadline, and I can't remember his name. He was a movie mogul. He was the head of Fox and Paramount at different times. And he said,
saying the AMPTP should just kick out Netflix.
Kick out Netflix and Amazon. They're trying to destroy you guys. Kick them out, make a separate deal with and let them strike against Amazon and Netflix. We read the same article.
But even then, that's the thing, though. I remember when I read the article, I thought, but this doesn't address the question of, let's say Paramount has a deal and they make their movies. What happens when then they want to put some of their movies on Netflix?
On Netflix and Amazon.
That's where the waters get muddy.
That's the issue with the interim agreements right now is everyone's like, yeah, the studio is fine right now. What happens when you sell my movie off later?
Right.
That's another issue there. The numbers here, what's so interesting to me, 500 million, right? That's a huge number. I want to throw a number out at you too. 429 million. That is what the writers collectively would have received should the AMPTP have accepted their May 1st proposal.
At least that's what they claim.
They claim.
Right.
Sure.
Which sounds expensive, but in 4 months,
For
you've
one
cost
studio.
you $500 million.
Right. This was the collective
Right.
AMPTP members would be paying all of the writers that amount of money. We're talking about one studio possibly losing 500 mil. That's not taking in everyone else to account. So that number is wild. And Warner Brothers really needs to figure things out too, because they're about to take another hit potentially, because now video games are potentially going to strike
right. I saw that.
for actors too.
Yeah.
We've got till September 25th to vote on that strike authorization, but it's not all video games. Much like the AMPTP, it's certain large different conglomerates, and one of them is WB Games. So they are up for potentially losing more money, right? And this is for video games, we don't get residuals. And that I don't believe is even on the table for this. I need to double check that, but it's mostly dealing with AI, wage compensation, and then just safety for mocap and vocal actors, because I know this sounds
Has
really...
that been an issue?
It has been. A
Really?
lot of people,
I didn't know that.
A lot of people for vocal performance end up having to go to physical therapy and things, which I know this is going to sound so babyish, but when you were screaming and doing fighting noises all day, people have torn up their vocal cords. They have
scarred the
snapped.
tissue.
They have done like irreversible damage to their voices doing creature work that sometimes not all production companies follow the proper procedure for that. And that's why I try to always advocate for my students, like, hey, you got to tell people when you need to take a break. You cannot do a voice that's not sustainable. If you can only do a voice for like 20 minutes, please don't bring it to a booth, because you could ruin your entire career. And a lot of companies will be like, oh, just push it. I had a client who had to do like screaming at the top of their thing, and they didn't work for like 2 months after that because they messed up their voice so much because it was a different voice than their natural one. So that's an issue. But everyone is on the striking campaign right now. So I really think that they need to take a hard look at these things. Both sides, obviously, right? I've got my inherent bias, but both sides need to sit down, because this is ridiculous that this much money is already being lost. That is more than what was asked for in the first place. And I know that's a very, very simplified version of looking at this issue, but those two numbers just are really jarring to me of, guys, can we just try to figure this out so you don't lose more money and all these other people don't lose their livelihoods and their insurance? I feel like we all can figure this out if we just really put on those thinking caps.
It becomes difficult. Like when you start hearing stories from some of the actors about, I remember that one story we covered where there was an actor on Orange is the New Black who was saying they couldn't afford cab fare to get to set. Like that puts things in perspective. It also becomes more difficult when you realize that even before the strike started, we were covering stories on our show about Warner Brothers, Disney Plus, or these streamers losing billions of dollars. And you start to get a picture about, now look, I know 95% of the time people side with their celebrities. I get that. But this is truly a very difficult situation where you could see why it's complicated. I just don't know why, again, I come back to it every time. I don't know why they don't make it, like all the sides don't make it a little bit less complicated and say, you know what, fuck it. Let's forget the 3-year deal for now. Let's just sign something that we can all kind of live with temporarily so we can keep working and negotiate for the next 6 months and try to come to, I don't know why they're not trying to, but again, you got actors losing money, some actors working extremely hard and not making enough to make rent. You got studios who are putting out these giant streaming things, and yet they're losing billions of dollars. I get it. It's complicated. I just don't know why somebody's not stepping forward and trying to simplify it a little bit, at least in the short term, to get people what they can at least live with right now and then move forward. I don't know, but it's getting frustrating. It's getting frustrating. And I'm sure, and I'm not even in it, so I can only imagine how frustrating this would be for writers, for actors, for... Hey guys, thanks so much for watching this video. Make sure you like the video, leave a comment, and subscribe to our channel. And don't forget, we have a daily podcast called the John Campea Show podcast, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcasting app of choice. Go and subscribe to it today so it'll be there when you need it.